Hi everyone, it's Eric here. Today we're going to be talking about asset bundles, which is a great way to do DLC or to load other things into your game after it's been created. I know this is a common thing, for example, for mobile stores that have a maximum size limit that your app can be, as well as we could use this for other kinds of platforms such as PS4 or just standalone Windows games. So this has come up in the forum here, how to do expansion packs or DLC, and we have created some actions for this to use the asset bundle, and I'm just going to go over this and generally how the asset bundle works. Now, here in the forum, I did link to two different YouTube videos that discuss asset bundles and the asset graph tool, so I suggest giving these a watch. They do have a bunch of coding and stuff in them, but you can just ignore that and just get the general concept of how this works. So the first thing we want to do is actually create an asset bundle. And what the asset bundle is a group of game objects and related content such as materials or shaders or other things like that. It's the dependencies. As well as we can add entire scenes into asset bundles. So game object and scenes are our main targets here for our DLC. So the first thing we're going to do is make that. Now, in order to make this process much easier, what this Unite video is talking about is the new asset bundle browser. And currently you need to get this from GitHub, and you can get it from the Unity Technologies GitHub, and I will have a link for this. And it's called the Asset Bundle Browser. And what you want to do is just go over here to this big green button and choose Download Zip. You're going to download this zip, unpackage the zip, and put the entire folder into your Assets folder in Unity. So it should look something like this. It's going to say, mine says Assets Bundles Browsers Master, and you should have these folders and files. Then what's going to happen after Unity compiles, maybe that'll take 15 or 30 seconds, you're going to have a new window here. Under Windows, we should have Asset Bundle Browser. And you can see I have a few in here already because I've been playing with this. But you can go ahead and dock this at the top. Now what this is going to do is just help us group together our objects into one nice bundle for us without us having to do any coding in order to do that. So why don't we just make a little bit of a test scene here and add a couple things in so we can see how that works. So I'm not going to get too crazy. I'm just going to put maybe a cube, and I'll put a sphere, and we can have that as a child object here. Just move this over. And let's do one more. We'll do, say, a cylinder, and we'll make sure that's not a child object. Now, I already have some materials made. As you can see, these are very basic materials. We'll just choose blue, green, yellow, and there we basically have our entire scene. Now, what I want to do before I put these into a bundle, if I want to put these in as separate objects and not the entire scene, I'm just going to go over here and create a new folder called prefabs. You can call this whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be called prefabs, but you do need to make these game objects into prefabs just by dragging and dropping them in, and you'll see that they have now turned blue here in the Unity hierarchy. The next step is, which I'm going to name mine something different than prefabs because I've used prefabs in the past. Let's just call this prefabs 2. We'll go over to the Asset Bundle browser now, and you can see I already have prefabs, so I'm created a new name. I'm just going to grab this whole folder and drag it right in there. And now you can see in the inspector part here that we have a folder, we have a cube, a cylinder, and it doesn't show that these are children, but it's all in there, as well as our materials. So with this selected, I'm going to go to Build, and for my target here is to standalone Windows. You can see we have a lot of different options here for PlayStation, for example, or Xbox or web, whatever it is. If you're just working on a standard Windows machine, you can just choose standalone Windows. and you're going to choose the output path. Okay, so this is key. If you are loading something from your local machine, we're not talking about loading this from the internet, just from our own package. We want to create a folder called streaming assets, and it has to be spelled exactly like this, and it's case sensitive. So it must be streaming with a capital S and assets with a capital A and no spaces. So you go ahead and browse to your output path and just choose that right off the bat. You can check through some of the other advanced settings, but for the most case, the default is just fine. So we're going to hit build, and it's going to take a moment to build this out. Okay, you can see that we've built this out, and for example, for some reason we have the streaming asset folder in here as well, which isn't necessary. We can actually delete this. So what we have is prefabs 2, and notice that it's made this all lowercase. And now we can actually go ahead and inspect this, and you can say which folder you want to inspect by adding a folder, and I've added the asset streaming folder just by choosing adding folder. And you can refresh this, and the only thing that's in here that is a asset bundle is this one here. We'll click on it, and we can see the size, so we know it's not empty. If it's empty, it's going to be 1 kilobyte. And we can see what's in there, give us some advanced information. So for example, we can see the meshes and the materials, the shaders, and everything else that is necessary. Okay, so while we're here, let's also just make a scene to test that out as well, just so we don't have to come back and do this process all over again. So I'm going to delete these prefabs here, and I can actually go ahead and delete them from my project, just to show you that we're actually loading them. So let's make another, well, we can just use the scene we're in. So let's add something different here. Maybe we will, I don't know, something easy here. I guess we'll just do a capsule. So we'll do 2 capsules. And these capsules will also give a material. Let's just say green, green, and why don't we make 3 just so it's easy to spot. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and make another folder here. And we'll call this, I don't know, it doesn't matter, prefabs again. Open that up. Put these in here. And now we can save this scene. So save scene, give it a name. Let's call this something simple. Let's just call it test scene. Save that. And now back to our asset bundle browser tool, we're going to go configure. We're just going to find our scene, grab it in there, drag and drop. Now we have test scene. As you can see, it has the necessary game objects. We'll go build, use the same settings, click build. So we can see in our streaming assets folder, we now have the test scene. Okay, so let's go ahead and build some kind of a system to load these. And to make that happen, first let's just delete our test scene. So again, you know that we're actually loading that. Make a new scene. And in the scene, we're just going to make an empty game object, and we can call this whatever. Let's just call this loader. And go ahead and add a FSM to this. Call this load bundle. You can call this whatever you want. This just helps us keep track of things. And in order to, I almost forgot, to get the actions here, you want these asset bundle actions. Okay, you can currently get these from my GitHub account here at dumbgamedev /Playmaker _ asset bundle. You can just browse over to there, and I will have a direct link as well. And these will be soon available on the ecosystem. So we just see all the repositories here. Scroll down to Playmaker Asset Bundle, and just like before, we're going to choose Download Zip. We're going to unzip that and drop it So just like before, we're going to choose Download Zip, download the zip, unzip it, and drop it directly into our assets folder here in Unity. And again, you should have something like this, Playmaker Asset Bundle dash master. And it doesn't really matter where it goes as long as it's in your assets folder and that it is, hopefully in a folder to keep things nice and organized. So again, Unity will take 30 seconds to a minute to compile, and then they should show up here in your actions. So all under Asset Bundle. Okay, so getting back to this, let's go to the loader and go to Playmaker. We've created a state called Load Bundle, and the first thing we want to do is actually load this. Now we have three options for loading. We have the first option here called Asset Bundle Load from Cache or Download, and I've added a note here that says load an asset bundle from cache. If asset bundle is not currently cache, it will be downloaded and stored locally. For Unity 5.3 or later, use web request instead is recommended. Okay, this is based on the actual documentation here at Unity, if I can find it here, under Asset Bundle Fundamentals. And if you want to take a little bit of time to read through some of these options here, they recommend, which ones to use here. So go ahead and, take a moment to read some of these recommendations here. So for projects that must download patches, it's strongly recommended to use web requests. Okay. So the second option here is Asset Bundle Load from File. This is the one we're going to use because we're loading it from a local file. And again, if you're using Unity 5.3 or later, use the Asset Bundle Unity web request in order to get it from the internet. So we'll talk about that after. Okay, so the first thing we need is the bundle name. And so that's in our project under Streaming Assets. So make sure again that it's in this folder called Streaming Assets or you won't be able to find it. So I'm just going to copy and paste this name so I don't misspell it. And that is the bundle name. Now we have a load success or load failure. So I recommend using these both just in case you do have a failure. Your game should have a way of dealing with that. So we're going to say success and fail. Okay, of course we want to actually store the asset bundle somewhere once we get it. And this is a little bit of a tricky part if you're new to Playmaker. If we read the help text here, it says saved asset bundle. Important, create a Playmaker object variable with the object type of Unity Engine asset bundle. So with these kinds of object types, you can't just create them automatically from here. We have to go to variable, choose object, and I'm going to call this loaded asset bundle. Now we need to set the type here. It's just currently set to object, and you can see there's a lot of options. But like the tooltip said, it's under Unity Engine, and then we're going to go up and find the type here is asset bundle. The Unity Engine asset bundle. So now we go back over here, and we can now choose this loaded asset bundle, and this will save our asset bundle so we can access it in the future as well. Now we're not going to use async. We can use async here optionally. It says here this is good for loading bars, but because we're loading this from the local disk and it's so small, it's going to load in just one shot. Bam. So here we click use async if you want this, and this will be good for an async progress bar. Okay, so we're not going to use the debug options, but they are there in case you need them. Okay, so let's hit play and just see that we can actually get a loaded success on this. and we have load success. So it's successfully loaded here, and if we take a look, we can see it's called prefab 2, and it's loaded. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, we don't have to do this, but I like to do an extra step. I want to see that the asset bundle contains a specific object before I try and load it. So what's the name of the object we want to load? Well, I honestly can't remember what's in there, so why don't we just go over and inspect, and we're in prefabs 2. Open this up, and we can see that we have a cube and a cylinder. So let's just type cube in here, because that's what we're looking for by name. The bundle is the loaded asset bundle. And I'm just going to use these events of found and not found. So why don't we just reuse success, failure. The success would be found, then not found. Okay, so let's hit play one more time and just make sure that we can actually find this. And it's been found. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is actually load this game object. So we have load asset game object, and the name of it is here cube, just the same. We could make this a variable. And where do we want to load it from is the asset bundle. So again, we have success, failure, and we also want to save the output of this. Otherwise, it's going to load into memory here, but we're not going to actually do anything with it. So we want to save the output. So the new variable would be called we'll call it my current object. And again, we have success and failure. I'll just call this no go. I'll call this loaded go, loaded game object. Play again. And we've loaded the game object. Okay, so now we actually want to do something with it. So let's create this game object into the scene. And what game object are we going to create? We'll use the current game object. And the spawn point, I'm just going to set it at the loader. Just be lazy here. And there we go. We've loaded this cube. And as I forgot here, this has actually had a sphere as a child, and you can see that it grabbed both the cube and the sphere and got the right materials for this. So this is great. It's really not that difficult to do once you sort of learn the fundamentals of this, and we can as needed spin out a bunch of different game objects. And so since we have the name of the asset bundle, we can use it over and over again to spin out as many game objects as we need. Now, if we want to load up a whole bunch of game objects, then we can use a scene to do that, as for people who are doing DLC, they maybe don't have just a gun or a weapon they want to use for DLC. They have like a whole new level. And the process is very similar. So let's just grab all of this nonsense and delete that. Go back to the beginning. So instead, we're going to need a different bundle name. The bundle name we're using here is test scene. And again, we have success and failure. Nothing's changed here. But we'll just do this quick. Let's just change this to, can we do this? Change this to green so we know. Go back to our actions here and check our asset bundle actions here. And what do we have? We have load asset scene. And we're just going to use the same bundle here that we just created. And we don't need a scene number or output. So what we can do is just load the scene right away. We don't need to use any of these events. So let's see if that works for us. So let's hit play. And as you can see, the scene's been loaded. It loaded all of the game objects in the scene, including the light, the camera, and everything else. And that was super easy to do. Okay, additionally, we can save the scene path for later so that we can load it at another time. We just create a new variable and just call my scene, and we can use this to load our scene at a later time from an array. So that's another way to do it. We just disable the scene load here, and that can be done. You can see the path here. Now, a lot of people probably want to, download this from the internet, which is a good way to get your DLC. So why don't we remove this? And this time we want to use a Unity web request. And I do not have a test scene set up at the moment for this, although I have tested it, so we know it's working good. Again, you want to put the bundle name. You need to put the address here on the internet. So the location of the asset bundle to load, do not include the trailing /after. So if using a local copy, use the folder name. For remote, use the full URL. So for example, if this was, say it was stored at, google.com / my project, do not say my project /, just say my project without a /, then the bundle name. And just like before, we have a load and success failure, and we have a progress bar, and then we want to store a local copy most likely so that we can access it again in the future nice and easily from within our system. So that's how to use the asset bundle system for DLC or to load local content. It's really not, like I said, that difficult to use once you sort of get the hang of it. It can take a couple of tries to get the asset bundle working. Now, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit me up on the forum and I will help you out with this project.